Hello and welcome to this episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Our guest in the show today is someone who is a strong proponent of electric vehicles, and he also handles a business which is into the conventional internal combustion engine vehicle industry also. And I'm talking about Mr. Shailesh Chandra, who is the president of Tata Motors Passenger Vehicle Business Unit. Shailesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumant. My pleasure interacting with you.
To start off, over the years, I've had some interaction with you. Now, I see that you are a very strong proponent of the growing electrification trend, and that is why you also put a lot of bet on various initiatives on the EV side. And going by the business performance, looks like some of them are paying off at least. With the Nexon EV getting their initial response so far, which looks quite good. So very briefly, can I take us through where does it stand in terms of your EV journey, and how do you plan to scale it up from here?
Yeah, Sumant. So, as you said that I'm a big proponent of EVs. For me, it's not about being a proponent, but being practical to what I'm seeing as the evolving trend. And you clearly see that directionally there is a transition which is imminent towards electrification, but it's going to be a journey, right? And this journey will have varying mix of the conventional vehicles as well as electric vehicles, and few other alternate technologies might also be in there. uh, Clearly there are forces which are driving things in favor of electric. The first and biggest driver, specifically for India, as far as India is concerned, that's the reason why I feel that it's an imperative, where you have 14 out of 15 most polluted cities of the world in India, where you have an issue of 75 to 80% of dependence of your oil through imports, right? And the whole energy security issue. All these point towards that there is a greater urgency as far as electrification, as far as India is concerned. On the other side, you see that emission norms are making the conventional vehicles more expensive. And as the scale of electric vehicles is growing, you are also seeing the battery prices falling down. Uh, and on one side, therefore, you are seeing a trend of a new technology where the prices are going down. The conventional vehicles are increasing in price. So it's a no-brainer, what's going to happen in the future as far as that is concerned. Uh, and then you see the whole emission norm, how stringent it is becoming from time to time, to the extent that you get penalized with cafe norms coming in. So when you take all these into combination, I clearly see, and it's a point of view, that electrification might see a very steep inflection point in the coming years. And once the barriers are addressed, and
Correct.
you are address all the myths around electric vehicles, and which is some of the work that we have been doing in the last 1 or 2 years, and the recent launch of Nexon EV, which is going to complete its first anniversary this month, has proven that if you are able to break the myths and are able to give a compelling proposition to a customer, uh, the adoption can happen, because the performance and rest of the things are very superior as far as
Right.
concerned. So I clearly
Right.
see the steep adoption.
So, as of date, how many or EVs have you sold so far? And of that, what is the share of Nexon EV in your EV portfolio?
We would be now very close to touching 3,000 as far as Nexon EVs are concerned.
Okay.
The end of this month, I would say, which would just complete the first anniversary for
Hmm.
us. And in the first anniversary, it would have touched 3,000, around that number. And then the Tigor EV would have also sold more than 1,500. Uh,
Correct.
so as a combination, we are in the range of 4,500 or so, I would say, so far.
Correct. And Nexon EV's share, it enjoys a leading share in that segment, if I'm not wrong. So, will that be Tata Motors kind of efforts to be the lead player in the four-wheeler electric vehicle industry in India?
So Nexon EV this year has sold about 2,200 or so, 2,200 out of 3,500 electric vehicles that have been sold in the industry in the first 9 months of the financial year. And that really is around 64 to 65% share of the total electric vehicle industry. So definitely it has created waves in this segment. And I clearly see that going forward also, this is going to only see greater adoption because every quarter we have been seeing growth coming in this segment on the back of the experience of the people who are owning the car and posting their videos, talking about it. And that gives more confidence to the people who are on the fence.
Okay. Uh, Going by the global trend of electrification, it would be fair to assume that every OEM, including Tata Motors, who feels very strongly about the electrification prospects, will kind of have some provision for electrification in every segment. But the newest addition in your portfolio, Safari, is that a candidate also for electrification? Because the architecture is planned to be electrified, right?
See, our future architectures are alpha and omega, as you know, in the passenger vehicle segment. And we have gone with the piggyback approach on the investments that we have made on the PV side because these were conceived. When it was conceived, it was also made electrification ready so that it can do higher range. So both the platforms are capable of doing electrification with the range that you need to deliver in as the market is evolving. And Safari being on the Omega architecture, which is a very capable architecture, comes from the D8 platform of Land Rover, has the capability of doing electrification. It's a matter of time when you choose to get into the electrification in different segments because you have to time it properly. Every segment possibility of getting into electrification needs certain criteria to be met before you enter those segments. Otherwise, it might not be a credible solution. Um,
Right.
just to elaborate that, if today you want to introduce a electric vehicle product in the price sensitive segments, say hatches, it will be very difficult to deliver range which is more than 200-kilometer real range and be at a price which is not exorbitantly high than conventional hatch. So therefore, today Nexon EV is able to deliver that, and that's why it is in the sweet spot today as far as that segment is concerned. Similarly, Safari to HBX, what we may launch later on, all these will be candidates for electric as far as our portfolio is concerned. So our entire portfolio can do electric.
So while both are candidates, but it's going by the prospects, the Safari could be an earlier candidate to get electrified than HBX, which may happen later.
Yeah, so I'm not going to answer any speculative question like that. Let's see. I think right time, Sumant, we will definitely let you know that.
Okay, and as you build this business, are you simultaneously also looking at global prospects or taking it to overseas market? Because the entry barrier compared to ICE vehicles is much lower because you don't face the the factor of different emission norms in different markets. Is that something that you are working on simultaneously?
Yeah, Sumantra, so our focus will be Indian market and the Indian subcontinent, I would say, expansion of the Indian market for the next 1 or 2 years is what I would say. You are absolutely right that this whole barrier which existed earlier, that different markets, especially the important auto markets, were at different, differing emission norms existed. And therefore, it acted as an entry barrier, I would say, because we, as Indian market players, were one emission norm or two emission norms behind. EV takes away that barrier, right, completely, and therefore it unleashes the opportunity to get our vehicles. But still, you have to create very market-specific solutions. What are the features, performance, safety aspects that the customer or the regulation is looking for in those markets, right? As well as the climatic condition use cases. You have to do very custom specific product, of whatever you do.
Right.
Emission is only one aspect, what you said, but definitely we have shortlisted some of the markets where we see there can be an opportunity in future,
Right.
and at the right time we can let you know once we have decided and there is something which is a very concrete.
Right. And while the EV industry is also has a much lower entry barrier, but it's also much higher, perhaps not on the technology side. It's very tech intensive, and therefore investment also needs to be uh, made at a very rapid pace and sizable investments at that. What size of investments have you earmarked for for the EV side, or generally on an annual basis at Tata Motors, for example?
So as you know, Sumant, that we don't disclose the investment numbers, but I can only say that it's a smaller fraction of what we would do while developing a whole one specific passenger car, because the electric vehicle strategy, as far as we are concerned, is piggybacking what investments have been made on the passenger vehicle side. As I said, that Alpha architecture and Omega architecture were designed as electric ready platforms. So we are really piggybacking on those investments also. And therefore,
Right.
the investment required is just a small fraction of what you would invest typically in a car otherwise. And that's why it's a
Okay.
very that we are pursuing as now. But as the market evolves, as the scale increases, as the technology prices of electric vehicles come down, uh, you would definitely like to go for more efficient products, on dedicated platforms. So going forward, you definitely see that as an opportunity.
Lastly, we are running out of time, but lastly, Shailesh, this whole collaboration trend, which is a global trend like electrification, and electrification, by the way, is also driving it, is at the driver's seat for driving this whole collaboration trend globally. So, and Tata Motors itself has announced, when you carved out this new entity of passenger vehicles clubbing together with EVs, collaboration was one of the objectives. Uh, where does that plan stand currently, and what are the, let's say, top reasons why uh, you would choose to collaborate with uh, company or company B?
See, collaboration is, really a global imperative. This is what we announced also when we announced that we are subsidizing. And the imperative comes from the fact that the next decade you have to invest into multiple things. The emission norms, which are becoming very stringent, the four disruptors, as we call as ACEs, right? Um, the next decade in terms of investments is not the same as what it was in the last 10 years, right? So the profile of investment has changed for more or less similar kind of demand evolution. And therefore collaboration becomes an imperative for all the auto players, I would say. And that's a long-term imperative for us. It's not a immediate necessity. For us, immediate necessity will be to win sustainably in a manner that we are growing faster than the industry, and that is the focus right now. But as far as EV world is concerned, I think here it is not about just making product and the technologies related to that. You will not be able to drive adoption by just doing that. You have to develop the entire ecosystem, in parallel. Otherwise, you will not see the adoption of electric vehicles. And therefore, as far as EVs are concerned, we are primarily looking for partnership in the ecosystem space. And this is where we found the different Tata companies coming together under the umbrella of what we call as Tata Universe, where we utilized this unique, what to say, differentiator for us as a group of getting the domain expertise of different companies to develop this ecosystem. On the charging infrastructure side, we have Tata Power. ACO did the battery pack for us. So we are bringing all these companies together so that we are able to also drive adoption. And we have GLR, which is also,
Right.
subsidiary for us. We have utilized them also. These are all collaboration, and we have used
Correct.
them because they have an experience which is 4 years more than us as far as electrification space is concerned, and we have quite often used them for critiquing our design and making our products more mature. So these are the collaboration that is ongoing in the electric vehicle space, more within our uh, group also, which is a unique advantage to us as Tata Motors.
Right.
But as far as the PV collaboration is concerned, I responded to that.
Okay. All right. On that note, Shailesh, thank you very much for sparing your time and sharing your thoughts in this episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Pleasure talking to you, and best wishes for the year ahead and beyond.
Thank you, Sumant. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Thank you. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Do keep sharing your feedback, suggestions. As always, we look forward to them. And please stay safe, take care, and best wishes from all of us at Autocar Professional.